Nice.
All right, morning, everyone. We are live. It's Friday morning. Got Matt. What's up, Matt?
Hey, good morning. What's up, everybody?
And we got John, deconstructing dreams here. What's up, man?
Good morning. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah. So if you folks can, I did put their YouTube channel links in the chat. So go please subscribe. Hold on, Hunter's jumping in. Here we go. There we go. All right, we got Hunter joining us. Thanks, man. How's it going, Hunter?
How's it going, everyone?
Good
Good,
morning.
good. Yeah,
Hey, what's up, man?
just letting everyone know I put the links to all your folks' channels in the chat, so go please subscribe. Today we're gonna kind of talk about a video I saw on YouTube from Alux. It's 15 important choices you have to make in life. So the link for that video is also in the chat. So if you want to check out the actual video and make your own thoughts and whatnot, but we're gonna maybe pick a few, see what we think about it, pushbacks maybe. But let's say Matt, was there anyone that may have stuck out to you first?
Well, I think the general theme, right, was like, it was either one or the other, right? Like they kind of posed a question, and it was like, do you want to be rich? Do you want to be poor? Do you want to like take, like control your life so it was like very kind of binary, like ones and zeros kind of deal. And sometimes, right, life's not just as clear as black and white, but I think the premise of it, right, made a lot of sense, in terms of, identifying things in your life that you can control and take an action to um, build that life that you foresee yourself. So I think it was like, it's always good just to get a kind of motivational thing, but at the end of the day, right, you gotta be able to put in that work day in, day out, be a master of the monotonous, so to speak.
For you, for Hunter or John, was there any one that really stuck out to you folks before maybe we dig into a few of them?
Go ahead, Hunter.
Yeah, there probably similar to Matt. There wasn't really one thing that stuck out. I mean, I think there's kind of two camps. There's one camp that is going to take action. They're going to try to get in front of problems. They're going to be proactive and not reactive. And then there's another camp that's basically saying, hey, I'm going to take life as it comes to me. I'm going to be reactive to it. I'm not going to, go out and try to be on the offensive. I'm going to be playing defense the whole time. And so, I think it's really just two mindsets or way of life, so to speak. So it's pretty much just choosing, which one are you going to go down, and just being diligent about following down that path, which I think there's a pretty clear cut and dry, response or path for most of these, I think, which is, if you're not proactive, if you're not taking charge, you're missing out on a lot of things.
For me, a lot of the times I see people wanting to live the YOLO lifestyle, and I find that to be the death of dreams because, you know, maybe that's a controversial type of viewpoint, but a lot of people are into the now and they want to take their vacations and they want to have the fast cars or the big trucks or whatever like that. And I think most of the group here would agree that you've got to have the discipline to save and really focus on putting away for your future investments and that type of mindset. So I think that most of this group is going to be of the mindset of saving for the future and doing the discipline that it takes to actually invest and work towards having that paycheck down the road rather than right now.
All right, Flavio is messaging me on the side. He is wants a little background on who Matt is and Hunter is. So he's not. I know you both are in school. Flavio's also in school, but maybe Matt, quickly, can you give Flavio a background on who you are?
Sweet. Little elevator speech. Cool, man. Yeah. So my wife and I, active duty military, still in the Coast Guard. Used house hacking with our VA loan to build a rental portfolio up to 5 units, and yeah, just continuing that path. Trying to see, make it a career if it works out. But basically building, a portfolio, investing for the future, building that generational wealth while you're still holding that W-2, or in our case, active duty. income. So you can do both, right? You don't need to wait until you retire to then think about retirement. So it's a little 30-second elevator pitch.
Hunter, you?
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm an agent in the Greenville, South Carolina, upstate South Carolina market. Been an agent for about 7 years, investing in real estate about 4. So I own properties in the upstate, own some out of state as well. Ohio, Colorado, Iowa, and North Carolina. So I think the portfolio is up to 13 units by myself. I have another 4 with partners, and then I do a lot of creative finance. So I buy a lot of my properties on creative finance. I do creative transactions where we'll buy something, wrap it and sell it to a buyer and kind of make some money there. And then I also do land home packages. So anyway,
And you still
quick little
have the
elevator
school
pitch.
platform, your creative finance school platform?
Yep. So I have my own school group as well. It's very small. I think we've got like 5 or 10 people, but yeah, just trying to grow that. So put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah, Flavio will probably reach out to you for that. He's definitely interested in that. But getting back to kind of the topic we were gonna discuss. Oh, actually, you would have known more about Hunter if he showed up on time the other week, but he had a doctor's appointment and he came in right when we were signing off. But it happens. You were waiting for like over an hour, I believe, right?
It was like 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
longest I've had to wait. So it's frustrating, but it is what it is. So
All right. Hyder does have a good comment though. Kind of embrace the suck, enjoy the sacrifice, right? So I definitely think that's kind of what the video was about. But it is a lot of choices that we do come across, as we go through life, and it's decisions that kind of pave the way for our future. And me, oh, actually, John is older than me. I was gonna say I was the oldest, but definitely, looking back, it's easy to say like, you would have done things differently and whatnot. But maybe we can start with the first one. Will you live the life you want or the life oh, that's not the first one, but will you live the life you want or the life your parents want? I mean, Matt,
I
maybe
thought
you
the
can.
first one was failure or regret.
Yeah, I know. Well, okay, we'll do it. Yeah, that one doesn't have
That's
one. I put a note, but okay, I'm throwing you
I
off
love
because
it,
the
man.
old
You're
guy is
going.
structured
Let it
here. So
run. Let it run.
would you rather deal with failure or the regret of not trying at all? So I guess John has something prepared. So John, you can go first.
Well, I would much rather have the failure of trying than the regret of never actually taking a shot. Because when you look at the studies for the people that are aging out in the nursing homes and that kind of stuff, they always talk about the regret of never having tried to do something. So I'd much rather, try and fail and learn from it and then succeed later than, never trying at all.
yeah, I definitely think there's something to be said for putting your best foot forward, even if you may know going in that you're going to fail. At least you would have taken the chance, took the risk, and later on down the road you won't have to live with that potential regret. So yeah, I think that's a great point, John.
Sorry, I was just replying to someone who says landlords are all
Man,
scumbags.
showing you some love, Mark. That's all
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
asking.
say they can have their own opinions, and we can dig into that later. But I don't know if anyone saw, but Millennial Mike was on the Raging Tomatoes, kind of having an 8-on-1 debate almost, basically about landlords
Oh
or
wow.
overlords. Yeah, so that was a couple weeks ago. Mike did an amazing job. That platform is pretty strange, but the host is amazing, Sarah. And Lumberjack's actually going to be on there June 5th for his chance to debate. And I believe his was on about like kind of like the Section 8 or social programs being removed and things like that. So it should be entertaining. Um, did you guys have another thought on would you rather deal with failure or the regret of not trying at all?
Yeah, I mean, well, to John's point, right? Like the book on the top 5 regrets of the dying, right? It's like the number one is, I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So that kind of transitions right to that second point you were talking about. But yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done, right? Like we grew up with our upbringing, our parents, right? And we get a lot of influence from our childhood, our upbringing, and kind of where we live. And so like I think the biggest thing, right, is if you're able to experience or just gain a new perspective, um, when you're pretty impressionable, right? 20s, late teens, or whatever. But yeah, I would say it's never too late to start. Um, but yeah, definitely a lot a lot easier said than done for sure.
I think for me, the question though is regret really avoidable though? Do you think anyone doesn't have any regrets at all, no matter how successful someone is? Do you think anyone kind of
I feel like you always have regret, and if you don't say, then you're probably lying, right? So you kind of got to be true to yourself. I feel like all these decisions in life, right? Like I know we have a real estate channel, so there's probably a regret that we had an investment, right? That either didn't go well or was a home run. Like I regret that I didn't get two of those home runs, or I regret that I didn't sink money into a bad investment. And so I think easier for the people that are on the sidelines to maybe make that judgment, right? But if you're in the arena, right, there's that famous quote about the man in the arena, right? And so I think that perspective, actually doing something about it is what it will, give you that change, let you move forward, and hopefully learn something throughout life.
the next one is kind of we can break this into two parts because we have John and I who have kids, and then we have Matt and Hunter. So we can say, will you live the life you want or the life your parents want? So me and John can kind of come at it for the way we maybe deal with our kids or whatnot and how we approach what they're trying to do. But Hunter, maybe you can touch on that as far as live the life you want or the what your parents want.
Yeah, so I think there's something to be said first and foremost about, trying to honor your parents, doing good by them, not disrespecting them as far as, wisdom that they have because, most teenagers, early 20s, they tend to think that they're right. I mean, I was the same way. I'm sure most people think that they're the same way at that age, but experience is something that you gain over time. And so, parents are there to help try to impart some of that wisdom they might have gained, onto you as somebody, younger who just doesn't, have that experience. So I think there's one thing to be said for, heeding wisdom, listening to guidance. But I think there's also another thing to be said that, you don't have to do everything that your parents want you to do as long as you're not, blatantly dishonoring them. And so, it's like if my parents said, "Hey, Hunter, we don't want you to get into real estate." It's like, well, if I feel like real estate is my calling, who's ultimately, the one to, choose that and say that, real estate is or isn't a calling for my life. I mean, it's ultimately going to be me more than my parents. But if they say, "Hey, we think real estate might be good. Here's a couple pitfalls to watch out for. We want to make sure we're helping set you up for success, just to not go down a bad, path toward, fraud, for example." It's like, okay, I should probably heed and listen to that advice. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's definitely up to you as the individual and not necessarily to obey and follow your parents to the T. But I do think there is something to be said for wisdom
John, I forget how many kids you have. I know you have what, three wives or three or two ex-wives, and then but how many kids do you have?
I've only got the one
Okay,
kid.
so how has that been for you as far as guiding them maybe to their career path and whatnot?
Well, the entire family is kind of into real estate, and I'm trying to show him the power of what we do and how helpful it can be, but I don't know that he's ready. So I give him those talks, and I kind of leave it at that and let him live his life the way he wants, but. I try to gently nudge him in that direction and try to show him the power of what this type of life can really lead to because, you know, I still have him come and help me occasionally on doing repairs and things like that. But I just don't know that he's ready to jump in and start investing, even though he's capable of doing that. But, I have hopes that one day he'll be ready and, if not, then he gets to decide what he wants to do and how he wants to live his life. As long as he's happy, I'm happy.
What about you, Matt? Was like military or the Coast Guard the path you chose, or did your parents kind of push you down that path, or what? How has it been for you?
Yeah. I mean, both my parents were, in the military, right? So dad was Army, mom was Air Force. So certainly there was a little bit of that like military background. And,
They're
thankfully I didn't have
disappointed
to,
then in you. You're in the Coast Guard.
dude, I'm doing, yeah, right. You gotta be a black sheep.
Nah.
You gotta do your own thing. But, to like, I guess kind of, break it down, right? Like, yeah, there was the influence, right? And there's positives of being in the military, right? You talk about like discipline and like, sacrifice and, we didn't have to move a lot. They were towards the end of their career when I was growing up. Um, but it really did instill a lot of good values in them, right? And so I think, whatever path you choose, you could still take the positives or negatives of any situation and apply it to your life. And so for me, after high school, I didn't want to join the military. And then, was at community college and I was just like taking the basic, right, basic classes, trying not to stay out of or trying to stay out of, student debt, right? Like, the cost of colleges nowadays is outrageous. And there was an opportunity for me, to actually like pursue that and apply to like the service academies. And I got like a prep school, so like it was like a delayed kind of gratification sort of thing. But I mean, for me, I was like, well, this is the best thing going for me right now. I might as well just take it. And then come to find out, right, like, it was probably the best decision for my life, up until this point. So yeah, there was that influence, but at this point, I felt like I charted it and made it my own.
Since we're talking about kind of, doing what your parents want or them making decisions for you or whatnot, maybe we can skip over a few real quick, but there is one choice of are you going to have children or not? So I guess that can relate to this as far as like me and John being parents and our, choices of having a child and how that has been. And Matt and Hunter who don't have kids yet, is that something on your mind all the time, or if it happens, it happens? So maybe Hunter, you can touch on that.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely I think something in our future, in one way, shape, or form. So, as far as timing, that's ultimately in God's hands. It's like I can't, you know, I can't try to force that to happen, right? But yeah, no, it's definitely something that's kind of on our horizon, so to speak. And I'm very much excited for that. I mean, I think that there's a lot that goes into, parenting and raising up a child well, educating them. Um, so I'm definitely excited for that, and I think to an extent, it's like I'm going to try to encourage my kid and be able to raise them in a way that is hopefully going to set them up on a good path. Um, whether that's passing down rental properties, businesses, whatever that might look like. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to make their own decision, and they might say, "Hey, I hate real estate. I'm going to sell it as soon as you give it to me." It's like, okay, well, hopefully I've raised them well enough that they have a foundation to go do something else.
Yeah, I was always kind of like, you hear how expensive kids are and how much hard work it is. So I always came at it from that perspective. And I was always like, if it happens, it happens. But now I look back and I even saw a podcast, they were talking about it. I believe it might have been Hormozy or someone, but they were kind of saying like, having a family, having a kid really, for a lot of people, it's what motivates you to be better because you have to, provide. You have to make more money. These kids are expensive, so you have to do better. So in a way, it's kind of a motivating factor for you to become a better individual, to learn, to grow. And I never thought about it from that perspective. I was always thinking about it as the cost and the work and the effort that went into it. And, am I ready for it? But now I look back on it as like, I probably it would have forced me to pursue different things at a younger age. Maybe be motivated to get promoted or work more overtime earlier in my career. So definitely a different perspective. John, you got any thoughts on that, or Matt?
Well, when I was a young man, I wanted a large family, and that didn't work out so
I'll
well.
keep my
But
comment off about that.
I certainly enjoyed having my one son, and I had pictures of him on my toolbox when I was wrenching all the time, just to make sure my mind stay focused on what was really important and not whatever, strife was going on at the moment. But I'm happy I only had one child, and I certainly don't want any more at this age. I'm ready to move on to another chapter into retirement. I'm not looking to become a father again. So, the living life now where he's an adult child, and it's more about trying to do some gentle guidance rather than hey, got to work on discipline and doing the right things and all that kind of stuff. He's old enough to make those decisions on his own. He knows what his life is going to be, and so now it's just trying to help him with that. So it's a whole different perspective with an adult child.
Flavio thinks he's special. He's always messaging me on the side instead of the chat, but he is asking if we can give a shout out to his daughter. It's her birthday today. So he said if we can all say happy birthday to her. I don't think we're gonna sing though, Flavio. Sorry, man. Camila, he said. So Camila, happy birthday. Not sure how old you are, but have a happy birthday. Hopefully you and your dad go buy a cell phone or something, not a flip phone, but hopefully Flavio can upgrade on that. But happy birthday, have fun, be safe. Let's see. Yeah, Joe making trouble here. Joe, yeah, firefighters hate hard work. Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. John will probably agree with you on that. You and John would get along, I think, Joe. Let's see what.
Well, that's why firefighters can wear Crocs. They don't have to do any work.
Well. Speaking of work, maybe before we move on to this next one, talking about you being older, right, and maybe trying to,
It's
speed up.
wiser. He meant wiser.
You can say wiser. I'll say old. But wanting to speed up your timeline for retirement, I guess, to get to that phase. Right now I believe you're working on your Airbnb. You're trying to paint something, and I saw that you posted on Facebook that you bought some VR glasses, I believe, to help you paint something, and it's been a struggle, right? You're saying like the challenge of the technology and trying to figure this out. So can you talk about that real quick?
So I saw a post on Facebook where a gentleman was using some VR goggles. They were the Meta Quest 3 for anybody that's interested. And they were using them to create logos on the side of the wall. And I thought that would be an excellent idea for the Airbnb, because I do have a logo that I've made with my brother. And so having looked into having that painted on the wall in my backyard, I've got about a 6-foot retaining wall back there. And, it was going to cost thousands of dollars to have somebody come out and draw it and paint it and do all this kind of stuff. So I went ahead and took a chance and bought the VR goggles, and the program that you have to install into them is called Contour. And you need a file name for your logo or whatever you want to paint. That's a file of PNG, and it has to be square. It can't be a rectangle. That way, when you resize it, it doesn't get weird shaped. And then you also need a transparent background. So I got the program installed. It's only like $10. A lot of reviews were talking about having a hard time getting the file into the program, which it did take a minute, but it wasn't really that hard. I think any new technology is going to take a little bit of a learning curve, but it wasn't that big a deal. And it had really good instructions in there where, you just kind of put it on the wall and lock it down, and you're able to move about and the image stays where you lock it. And that was another thing that came up in the reviews, where they were having a hard time locking it, and I didn't have that issue whatsoever. I just followed what the directions were, so it worked out really well. I just did a test on it in my own living room, kind of locked it on the wall there by my TV, but my first initial test with it worked out really well. Now, what Mark's talking about is I actually played a game that came with it. It's called Batman. I wanted to see how it worked, and 5 minutes into the game, I punched the glass that was sitting next to me and spilled crap all over the place. So Mark is very excited to see me look like an idiot from the outside while I'm trying to cast what I'm seeing in the VR goggles. But that's just Mark having a good time with
Well,
me.
okay,
So
wait. I told him though he should record himself with it on while he's working. Don't you think that would be great
That'd be
content,
legit.
right?
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah.
See?
everybody wants to see me look like an idiot.
Well, me definitely. Yeah, I do. But we do
John,
have.
here's a great idea for a commercial space. If you wanted to do something with commercial real estate, you create a virtual reality room that people can go into. It's padded. There's nothing in there to break, nothing in there to spill. So that way you can put the goggles on and just go crazy.
Well, I thought I was going to avoid an accident like that because they had two options where it could map out your room so you didn't run into stuff, or you could just stay in the seated position. So I asked it just to stay in the seated position because I didn't want to, break my own TV. And still made the mistake. It's a lot of fun. It's a new technology to learn, and maybe I'm not as fast at learning that type of stuff as a younger person might be, but I'm still jumping in there and having a great time with it.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Tampa Bree, who's tuning in on Instagram. She's going to be my next guest. I think it was next week, but you guys have to go check her out on TikTok, Instagram. Her reels are hilarious. She's a realtor in Tampa area, but her reels are. She's only been an agent for about 6, 7 months, I believe, but her reels are bringing in a bunch of leads, and she it's going to be a lot of fun to have on. So she's going to probably do some lives with us and whatnot. It's going to be fun. Sahil, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. He said, so, hey, what discussion is going on? Give me content. Okay, well, we do just goof around, kind of talk about real estate, financial freedom, mindset. But today we're talking about a ALUX video that I saw about 15 important choices you have to make in life. So we're kind of just going through some of them, our thoughts on it, if it's decisions that we had to face in life and how we've dealt with it. But so let's see. Let's see. Would you? Oh, this is a tough one. I think I've always struggled with this one. Would you rather spend your time growing or being entertained? So, Hunter, how's that been for you?
I would probably have to say growing. I think consumerism as a whole, I think, is really running rampant through Western culture, and I'm going to kind of be very generalistic here, okay? But just for sake of argument, but I just feel like everything is consumerism. It's all about me. It's all about how can I go get my fast food delivered? How can I go get all of my streaming platforms? So it's all just very self-centered, which I think is not very helpful to culture and society in the long run. But I think with that being said, if you have a growth mindset, you're always trying to improve, even if it's just 1% better every day, but you're always working on yourself in one area, whether that be spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, financially, business wise, like, whatever that looks like. I think you will see radical transformation in your life. And so I think it's much better to be growing than to be entertained. You even look at people like Hormozy. He was sharing the other day on one of his podcast episodes that the bar is so low as far as effort. Like, if you just answer your phone in business, you are better than like 80%, or whatever the statistic was. It was very high, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, how can you just answer your phone and you're better than 80% of other realtors, or 80% of other electricians? It's like, whatever you're in, if you just put forth normal effort, you're better than most everybody. And then you really start working on yourself and your business, and you can really level up. And now all of a sudden you're better than 99% of people because you put in 10% more effort than just, the average of getting by. So anyway, kind of a long-winded answer there, but yeah, I think growth is much better.
All right, before Matt can kind of give his input, I'm going to give a so Tampa Bree has stopped by, so give her hello, everyone, welcome. I'm telling you, go check out her reels. It will keep you laughing all day. So go check it out. And Hyder says he's going to be in Tampa, Florida, for his trip, the Rebel Capitalist, I believe, which I don't know if you guys saw him post in the school community, but he received basically a free ticket for all his help that he does in the community for George Gammon and their chats and moderating and whatnot. And so they gave him a free ticket basically. So I think it's worth like
That's legit.
yeah, like $2,000 ticket. So he's gonna be there. He's got to pack his tuxedo. He said. Uh, trade Trade Better says he got entertainment from growing. I don't know how I want to take that, but I think I know what he means.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But but Matt, what about you as far as growing or entertainment? Has it been a distraction or whatnot?
Yeah. Well, I guess like to Trey Better's point, right? I mean, if you can, combine the two, right? Like make learning or make growing something something that is exciting or something that is kind of entertaining, right? Like you could probably sustain that for maybe a little bit longer um, than something that may be like boring or whatever. But I think when it comes to um, the difference, like you could basically say like, hey, everything on social media, everything on like Hunter was saying, like consumer culture is just to feed you and just basically be like just be sedimentary and just like with the press of a button you got food, with the press of a button you can like do X, Y, and Z. And so I think like to differentiate yourself, like Hunter was saying, it's so easy because that, like you said, that bar is so low. So just going that extra 5 to 10%, right? Going above and beyond. I think for people, especially in a customer service industry or hospitality industry, like we have for Airbnbs, like that really makes an impression. That shows that you care. That shows that you're trying to provide a lot of value for people. And so I think right that like gap is probably just going to get bigger and bigger, and the people that are wanting to succeed, wanting to work hard, wanting to really push their business forward um, will not have any issues because the competition, as you stay in the game 5, 10, 20, 15 years, right, you're going to see people come and go. But I think if you're willing to stick it out and provide that value, um, that's the recipe right there.
I want to say morning to Casey tuning in. He loves Omar, who I did a recent interview with, who's a contractor in the Pittsburgh area, and I think Casey likes those kind of immigrant stories, the people that are kind of trying to find the American dream and whatnot, and not making excuses. So thanks for checking that one out, Casey. Lane 5 is telling Bree, welcome Bree. Please be advised to wear tall boots when talking on Mark's channel. Yes, so we have a lot of fun here, Bree. But Bree also agrees with you, Hunter, right? The bar is so low. Customer service is everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's crazy how low it is. But I did want to go back to a quick point, Matt. You were kind of talking there about the culture. There's a quote, and I had to take a second to look it up because I didn't even know where it came from. But it talks about bread and circuses for the masses, um, and that comes from a Roman poet from about AD 100. And anyway, just kind of fascinating to think about. Like that was a phrase that was used by the Romans to talk about the Roman government slowly seducing the people of Rome with basically food and entertainment. And I just feel like that's really relevant now, just with the way that our culture is going. So it'll be interesting to see how much that bread and circuses, really plays out over the coming, 20 to 50 years.
I just want to remind everyone, Frank, old guy REI, says he is selling the ORAT shirts again. So they are available. So there is the link to order your shirts so you can get ready for next year's ORAT event. So hopefully Hunter and Matt will be there also next year. John was there. John was first time. John had a lot of fun. But let's see here. There was a question. Oh, Flavio is asking. I think this kind of relates to kind of what we're talking about, making choices, decisions we have to face. But when is enough? So for you, John, like, I mean, I'm not making trouble, but you said you're older. you're trying to get to that. You have a few years. You're trying to speed things up for retirement. But when is enough, or what is enough for you?
Well, Dion has a very good video on the subject because most people are going to talk about, whatever millions of dollars and 4%, rate of, pulling money out and that type of thing. And I think Dion has an excellent point of it. It's actually kind of opposite where, if you've been tracking what your finances are currently, then you've already got a baseline and you just need to apply a multiple of that to where you're going to be comfortable for retirement. So, if that number is a very low number, then maybe that multiple needs to be a little bit higher where, if you're taking $10,000 a month to live off of now, maybe, you just need a 2 or 3 time uh, multiple to be comfortable. Whereas if you've only got, maybe $2,000 a month that keeps you comfortable, maybe you need to 4 times that. So for myself, I'm looking at about a 3 times multiple, and I should be pretty comfortable with that. I have the fortunate that I work for the government, so I'm going to have a pension. I've got health care that I'm going to be able to use for the rest of my life. I'll have Social Security, and I'll have rental income. So there'll be multiple areas where I've got the ability to bring in some money, and I house hack, so my expenses are very low. So there's a combination of things that are working well for me to keep those expenses low and be able to bring in some extra income through separate sources. So, that's going to work out pretty well. And, that's my hope because I don't have a 401k to lean on. I have a TSP, but it's going to be so low that, it would never be able to compound enough in the short amount of time I've got left. So, I've only got about 6 years that I'm looking before I retire. So I'm actually looking at using some of that TSP money for a loan to be able to do some renovations on a property and be able to increase the revenue that it's producing as well.
Do you guys have an enough number or anything yet, Hunter or Matt?
I know roughly-ish what my number is. I mean, it's really kind of looking at, what I spend every month, and then I tack on about 25 to 40%, depending upon the exact spend amount every month. But that's kind of my overall number that I'd like to get to from a cash flow perspective. Dylan put a good kind of comment there in the chat, saying that we basically have two numbers to an extent: a cash flow number, and then another number where we could sell off our real estate, get equity, and live off of dividends. And I don't necessarily think I would ever want to sell off anything, but I think right now, you know, I can't live off of equity, right? It's like I got bills to pay. I need money coming in every month, but at a certain point, I'll be able to fully live off of the cash flow. And, maybe at some point in the future, the cash flow grows as properties get paid off, things operate better. Maybe you 1031 into a better asset class with lower, operational expenses. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but I know mine, and I know I'm not there yet. So, it's still just a matter of, growing sustainably.
Matt, what about you?
I really like the wealth building journey comment, right? Like enough is a goal, right? So know your goals. I remember, in the beginning of this whole, light bulb moment of, you're creating a vision board, you're writing down goals, and in the beginning, I remember being in my mid 20s, and I'd listen to some bigger pockets or all these podcasts, and they would be like, like set a goal, or I was like, okay, cool, set a goal. It's like I want to have $10,000 net cash flow every month. And that was like, okay, like it's a tangible goal. It's got a good timeline. Like I can see that number. And then as I've kind of gotten older, I've realized that your goals, if you're really striving for them, they should be shifting. So you're never really attaining that goal, but you're just constantly keep on pushing it forward, right? So like, sure, you might hit 10K, but then it's like, oh, what? And then you just like kind of rest there. It's like, that's why I don't know if like that whole like retire, like financial independence, retire early. I don't know if I'll ever sort of like um, hit that quote unquote what people think of retirement is like, hey, I got this lump sum, I'm taking 4% distributions. If I got this lump sum, I'm gaining 8 to 10%, annual return. Like I can live off this amount. I'd rather kind of quantify or simplify that to maybe like a lifestyle of like I want to do what I want to do with who I want to do, and and when. So like sort of like a lifestyle thing of like if you want to go travel, like I'm at that point where it's like if I wanted to go visit family in Japan like tomorrow, like I can't do that, right? Because like we're still serving in the military, like it takes a long time. So like I feel like the lifestyle and what I'm trying to achieve is more attainable. And so I don't really want to quantify that with like a cash flow amount just yet.
Well, and I think to a degree, your goals do shift, right? So it's like you make a really good point to talk about, you're never really going to be quite achieving that. Like for me, as silly as this sounds, one of my goals starting out was to be able to eat Chipotle every single day. Like I wanted to, have enough money to eat Chipotle at least once a day. Um, it's like obviously I can do that now, but I've chosen not to eat Chipotle every day for other goals and reasons, right? So it's like I think those goals can shift and morph over time, and that's probably healthy and natural.
So we got the legend returning tomorrow. Joe Farrell is going to be back on live. I call him Blue Steel. So go check him out on all his posts that he's doing on Facebook and Instagram. He starts with the Blue Steel face usually, but he's going to be returning tomorrow. But he says on Instagram, for me, it's about disassociating from the results and focusing on the process and winning the day, winning the game. So, oh, Bree says she used to work at Chipotle, Hunter. So maybe she takes offense to
Nice.
that. I'm not sure, but
Hey, I still love Chipotle. I just can't eat it every day.
um, but I do. Since Matt, I know you kind of brought up bigger pockets. I don't know if you guys noticed. I don't know if you guys saw Scott Trench post. He is stepping down as CEO, so he is stepping away a little bit from what his title was. He's going to be focusing on the bigger pockets money, I believe. So they definitely are pivoting quite a bit. It seems like
Interesting.
in their message. But Scott Trench had this post. I'm going to try to share it. I don't share too much, but let me see if you guys can see this on the screen. Um, yeah, so he posted the other day, early retirement will cost you at least 2 decades. First is a decade of grind, frugality, self-education, hard work, and patience to amass millions. Second, a decade of opportunity cost, retiring at the peak of your earnings, likely foregoing millions more. This is the price of Tuesday on your terms for the rest of your life. Pay that price. It's a deal of a lifetime. So I think it makes people really look at kind of their earning phase and whatnot. So I think a lot of times, like even in the fire department, right? Like for me, a lot of guys they get that high three, so many years, and they're towards the end of their career is when they're making their most income. So that's why they're staying longer and they're working longer because they want to get as much and maximize the income. And then there was a guy, I'm not sure if you folks follow him, Mark Ferguson, Invest for More. I don't know if you guys saw, and I haven't checked if it's true, but unfortunately, it looks like he passed away suddenly. So
Oh my gosh.
there's YouTube
Wow.
videos out. The wife has posted that suddenly he has passed away, and he's a big investor. He's a flipper. But the funny thing, not funny, I'm not saying, but he posted on that Scott, or he reshared that Scott Trench post, basically saying that he's gonna keep working because of the money. Even though he could have retired, he can retire, but he kept working. And unfortunately, he passed away suddenly. And now it makes you reflect, right? Like are people, you kind of have to make that decision. And that's the tough choice you have to make, right? Are you going to keep working because those last 3 years of your career is the most amount of money and whatnot? So I think that's why I got into this topic of these choices and decisions that you do have to make. And like for you, John, like you're saying, you're trying to push towards retirement. You have 6 years, and that's why you're also willing to do the short-term rental, like you're saying, right? To maximize that cash flow now, so you don't have to work a lot longer, right?
Yeah, the short term is a lot more headaches for sure. I mean, there's so much more to it than doing the long term rentals. But if I was just doing long term rental there, I would basically be breaking even and quite frankly, it might even be a little bit negative if you factor in the 15% that I like to put in for vacancy maintenance and capex. So it put me in a position where I wanted to try a new strategy and try to the short term and see how that worked out. But it's actually worked out really well. I mean, it does put a lot more on my plate. I'm constantly watching the phone for any messaging or any issues that's going on over there. I've had to run over there after a 15-hour day and go fix something for a guest to give them good customer service. But that's just the price you do for doing good business with people, because at the end of the day, I certainly want my guests to all enjoy their experience. I don't want anybody to have a bad experience there. So I'm willing to put in the extra work so that they're happy, and I'm making actual good profit off of it. But I don't know that I would have done this strategy had I had a lot longer timeline, because it is so much more work. But, you know, processes, management, technology, all of those things come into play to really reduce it and, try to streamline that amount of effort as much as possible.
Yeah, very sad wealth building journey. It was just suddenly, and from what I saw, it was I believe he had blood clots in his lungs, and yeah, so um, it was very recent. So the wife has been posting some videos talking about it on YouTube. But yeah,
Man,
um,
it's pretty yeah, that's tough. That is sad. So that's a good point, right? Like, we make these investments, we're trying to secure our future, but the future is never certain, right? So like it's sort of this like balance of like, do you smell the roses now, or do you just keep like being thrifty, or like where do you find that balance? So I think for everybody it's just different.
yeah, and then even on she's talking about it, and definitely she's having a hard time. But even she kind of touched on even though he built this wealth and portfolio, some of the I don't know what the right word would be, like maybe the not the trust, but the things he put in place for if something was to happen to him, it's
Hmm.
kind of outdated in a sense. Maybe he did it 5, 10 years ago, right? He had these instructions or plans in place, so kind of it's a little bit outdated to what how it implies today. But she's going to figure it out. But she is great, the wealth that he did build. But at the same time, that makes you think about how you're setting up things. You're not thinking, you're trying to build right now, but you're not possibly thinking about how you're going to pass it on if something happens out of the blue, and then how is it going to be situated for your family. So definitely it was eye-opening and sad to see. And I was wondering, I didn't see him post for a while, and I was wondering what was going on. And then I saw someone post that yeah, something did happen. Let's see here. Lane 5, Andy does say, I feel like the ALUX video made me think about my goals and all the conversations that's been going on lately with cash flow versus wealth. Everyone at a different stage, life happens, and you still shoot for the stars. So I think he's also talking about we did have a nice friendly debate the other week with Dion and Brandon Potts about cash flow and net worth. And just kind of coincidentally, right after that, Coach Carson kind of came out with a video almost saying the opposite from what Dion's point of view is that you build the wealth first and then cash flow. So there's a great video from Coach Carson, so go check it out. Little clickbaity, the title, but definitely go check it out. I mean, it's a super good video, and then Zuber and him do discuss it on Zuber's channel. Let's see. Hey, Ike is tuning in. What's up, Ike? And then Joel is stopping by. He's jumped over from Instagram. He's here on YouTube. And let's see. Yep, Wealth Building Journey says that's another painful reality. Annually updating wills, trust, etc. Right? So sometimes we get caught up in just trying to grow and build and go and acquire, and we kind of forget about maybe how we're going to pass things on. And so it's a good reminder. Let's see what else we got here.
Stay out of probate. Got to stay out of
Yeah.
probate.
I mean, You want to bring it up again, John, about marriage and ex-wives, and we did talk about this a couple episodes.
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with ex-wives. It has to do with current people that
Yeah,
you're trying to
but even
take
but
care
even
of.
like planning, like we talked about on the other live with Aaron, right? Even your spouse or your partner, who you choose, is one of your biggest could be your biggest financial decision, right? And like you said, you've kind of learned from that and whatnot, right?
Yeah, dealing with, first of all, having somebody that, it is in the same type of mindset as far as, whether you're being frugal or whether you like to travel or, you're into business, just having somebody that is supportive instead of, having that constant negative battle that could happen that, could hurt those dreams or that forward progress. You want to make sure you've got somebody there, and the first part of that is probably having a discussion before you even get married about having a prenup, because the prenup is vital for, first of all, to have a discussion about finances in the first place. If you can't have a discussion before you get married, why would you ever marry that person? You're going to have those discussions over your lifetime sooner or later. So why not have them in the beginning? And when you don't have a prenup, you have one anyway because you're going to have one with the state. So you might as well talk about things while you're in a good place and in agreement with things before you ever get married, and then move forward with that and have a vision for where you want to go forward. And so many people have the idea that prenup is a negative type of situation where one person is trying to, you know, be, the overlord of finances or whatever. And, it's just not that way. It should be a nice discussion that, hey, what I had before is still going to retain to be mine. And what you had before is going to retain to yours. And what we build together is a 50-50 split, that type of conversation shouldn't be that big a deal to have. And if it is, that could be your first warning sign that maybe this isn't the person that you should be spending the rest of your life with. Now, after that, you should be looking at wills and trusts and things like that, because probate is a pretty miserable thing to go through. The Airbnb that I bought, the gentleman died and his son was the one who was selling it, and it was going through probate, and it took quite a long time. And something I wasn't aware of was that even after I gave him an offer, it was accepted, everything was going through, it still had to get accepted by the probate judge. And somebody could have swooped in during that hearing and given a slightly higher offer, and then I would have been into a bidding war. And I wasn't even aware of that beforehand. So that makes it very difficult to you know it's not a very secure feeling to know that you've got another hearing that you've got to go through just to secure the property, that anybody could swoop in and overbid you. So trying to stay out of probate is a main concern for anyone that you might be leaving you know your assets to after the fact.
Hold on, I want to. So Cody did agree. Great video with Coach Carson. Flavio says, "My wife reminds me every time to enjoy life while building our portfolio." And Casey says, "For me, how to choose wife is how they look at the money, if it's the same as you." And then Matt kind of comments on that about same thing as we enter Costco each time, him and his wife.
Just man, they hit you, dude. They hit you quick.
Yeah, I don't. You guys want to dig into some more? I got time, so if you guys want to dig into some more of these topics on the Alux video, anything else you want to pivot to? Anything else you want to share?
I'm going to have to hop off in 5.
Yeah,
I've got another call, but happy to dive into something quick before
one.
then.
Yeah, that you pick one then. Is there anyone that you wanted to touch on that stuck out to you?
Um, I thought the one, do you want to serve yourself or serve others, was really unique. right? Because I think in real estate investing, we tend to think that it's all about me. Not that it's a consumeristic mentality, but just that it's like, hey, if I'm not serving myself, then by default I'm not moving toward my goals, and I'm not trying to you know, grow my cash flow, whatever that looks like. But I think there is a balance, at least the way I see it. You need to be focusing on your goals, right, with intentionality, but you can't have everything closed off as to say, hey, I'm not going to collaborate with somebody else on a real estate deal, or I'm not going to help somebody else, walk through a problem that could now cause them to be a competitor. Like, I think there's so much real estate. I mean, even just where I am in Greenville, South Carolina, like there's just so much real estate that's just, flowing over, right? And so it's like, even if you took 100 of the richest people in Greenville, they couldn't buy all the real estate, because there's just so much of it. So I think all that being said, we need to, be more of a go-giver, like Zuber always says, and obviously everybody here on this call is, lots of people in the comments, but I think just in general, we need to, adopt that go-giver mentality. Obviously, I'm still, building my thing, but I want to help other people too.
Yeah, and like Chester says, the more people you serve, the richer you get, right? And if you want to know more about some creative finance things, go check out Hunter's school platform. How much was it again, Hunter?
It's $9 a month. So, yeah, I'm really surprised more people don't join it. But I'm kind of revamping it so I can understand if somebody doesn't see the value in it. But hey, $9 a month, you basically get to talk with me through any sort of deal, that you want to.
Yeah, you have a link for it real quick, or I don't think I have it anymore.
Yeah,
I
give me a
thought I had
second.
it.
Let me
Yeah.
no,
Well,
let
while
me
you,
let me find it. I'll send it to you.
yeah. But John, there is a question from Ray who was on Instagram. He jumped over here though now. So he says, "Hey John, how many hours a week do you spend managing your short-term rental units? I was thinking based on the cash flow you're generating, how many more long-term rentals would it take to match that?"
I live in a rather high expense area. Our average housing is about 600,000 a year to, or 600,000 to purchase. So it's a rather high expense area, but it's very difficult to find anything that cash flows here. So a lot of times people, unless you're getting into multifamily, you're probably not going to cash flow off of any single family homes. And the one that I found was always going to be the long term play with trying to do an ADU underneath it. So that was kind of my thought process, and it was going to be a break even no matter what for doing long term upstairs, and that's why I went with the short term so that I could actually make some cash flow off of it and be able to do any repairs, because typically when you buy a new house, there's always something that's going to come up, something's going to break, something that the inspector didn't catch or whatever. And you know that being said, it just depends on how much cash flow per month you can generate on whatever long term you have. Now, for my case, if I was to buy something today that was a single family house, it would be very difficult to find something that is actually going to cash flow. So it could take quite a few properties before I gained enough to match what I'm doing with a short term for a single property. And like I said, I'm really more after the second unit in the property, because that's going to be really where the uh, you know the gas goes on the fire for the cash flow. Because if I can get the city to get the zoning happening for ADUs, which I've been working on for over a year now, and it's actually stalled out because state of Nevada is starting to put together some stuff for ADU legislation. So the city didn't want to step on those toes, so now they're kind of stalling out on it until state of Nevada gets going. So regardless, I am going to build out the downstairs, and it may not be an ADU, but I can certainly renovate it downstairs with, you know, doing all the permits and what I need to do down there just to make it a nice area for somebody to stay in, and just basically add another bedroom. And regardless, they're going to make me do another spot on the driveway. So I'm going to go ahead and get that kind of stuff done now and get as much of it as I can done. And, when ADU zoning comes through, then I'll be able to switch right into that and already have the permits and inspections completed for what I've done down there.
All right. So,
Awesome.
like I said, Hunter's school link is in the chat. So if you want to go check it out or just see what it's all about, creative finance, go check it out. But Hunter, thanks for jumping on today, man.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Good to talk with everyone, and thanks for tuning in.
All right, man.
Yeah, man.
Nice to meet
See
you.
ya.
Proof Oak, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry, man. These are not the crypto bros yet. I'm working on getting some crypto folks on for you, but you can also check out me and Joseph Cachapalia doing Fractional Friday, which is not crypto, but it's fractional real estate. So you can always check that out.
I
I
can't wait
guess
for the financial firefighter token, dude. We got to start investing in that.
negative. And Josh Burdick, morning, man. He's here to stir up Chester in the comments. But so I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to social media also. Have you guys seen the one gorilla versus 100 men kind of debate? And
Yes.
Dude,
let's
it's
drive.
making its rounds, dude.
So let's drive Chester a little crazy a little while. So what's your guys' thoughts on that? Gorilla or the 100 men?
Dude, I don't want to think about it too hard, but I'll just take a gorilla, man.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go for the gorilla as well.
Like I said, man, just throw the big guys on them. Andy, Val, Frank, Cody. Shit, man. Then I'll just wait till he's
Dude,
tired out.
there's a special type of person that's willing to be like, all right, hey, let me go up there first, and then y'all go on after me. It's like,
No, not they're gonna not they're I can outrun those big guys, so the gorilla's gonna get them first, and then I'll just wait around.
Wait around for your turn to be
He's gonna
torn
be tired
apart.
by then. Uh, Chester's like, here we go. Um, let's see what there was a question. There was one from the Alux video. I still wanted to. Oh, the last one. This says wrap things. Well, not wrap things up, but the last one. Are you living or just surviving? John, what about that? What's your thoughts on that one?
For the moment, I'm more just trying to survive, because I kind of look at it as living is more, okay, I'm spending all the fruits of my labor and doing more of that type of action, whereas surviving is being more conservative with my spending and being more of an investment type of mindset. So that's the stance I'm taking on it. So I would say I'm more in a surviving mode now. That doesn't mean that I don't go out and have some fun with my wife. I take her on date nights and things like that, of course, and we go enjoy doing things, but often we're doing things that aren't super expensive. We'll go for a drive, or we'll go have a picnic at the park, or things like that don't cost as much as going for a luxury type of dinner somewhere, because my wife cooks better than most of the restaurants anyway, so we're always disappointed when we do that.
oh, that's nice. It's a nice perk. You save some money
Absolutely.
eating at home, you know?
Oh, really? So quickly before Matt responds to that, but Hyder,
Mm.
Andy says, Hyder, have you read Richest Man of Babylon? And Hyder has not. I'm surprised. Huh. Wow. I
It's a
thought
good
Hyder.
book.
Yeah, I definitely thought
It's a
Hyder
good book.
would have read that, but interesting. But on this matter, Chester does
Hmm.
say surviving is existing without a goal. Ooh.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's why people have a lot of, um, I'll say, for those that maybe, you hear about a lot, like people that get out of the military, right? That whole purpose, that structure, having that kind of team mentality of working towards a goal, right? Like when you separate and you don't have really that camaraderie or that purpose, I think that really, can wear on people. And to kind of hit that point, right? Like, yeah, if you're just surviving versus living, your priorities, your goals, what you're working towards, what your purpose, a lot of that is like, as long as it's aligned, I feel like gives you a good chance.
Yep. Joe says, yeah, it's a fast read. Yeah, it's a pretty short book. It's actually, I think, like, I think my son would probably enjoy it. It's probably, it is a short read. It's pretty uh simple to understand, but it is good. Is that rain? Is that rain for one of you guys?
Not here.
I don't know. I'm
No, but
hearing,
I'm hearing a little feedback, but
yeah.
I don't know what it is.
But I also want to say thanks for John taking my advice on sitting back from the camera a little bit this time. Now I can edit better and make reels which your head fits into the reels. I was having a
Well, yeah, I moved my whole setup out to the living room so that it would not be quite as bright from the window in the kitchen, and try to tone that down a little bit because I know it was washing out pretty bad. So tried to tone down the brightness there as well. So hopefully that'll make things a little easier for you. But I did have a question for you guys since we're talking about books. What did you guys think about Rich Dad Poor Dad?
you want to go first,
Go
Matt?
ahead. Go
No?
ahead, Mark. Oh, yeah.
No, yeah, go, man.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I think I think it's good, um, perspective shift book, right? Like you could agree, disagree with the principles, what he's doing now, but I think in terms of a perspective shift to say, hey, you're able to think about life differently. Some people need that, right? And I think when you have exposure to that, especially when it comes to real estate or investing, I think that can kind of help start making you think a little bit differently and have you move a little bit differently in terms of how you invest. So I think you got to take it for what it is. I mean, it's like you know still a best selling book, right? So there's some good messages. Yeah, yeah, it's a gateway drug for sure. Chester's on it.
Yeah, Chester says, without purpose, we experience what's known as psychic entropy, which is that loss without a purpose feeling. And Joe wants to say, my bald head usually blinds everyone, and that's why I'm wearing a hat. So, yes, I think John enjoyed that one, Joe. So
I sympathize because bald head as well.
that's why he has a hat on too, and Matt doesn't. Um, but yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think definitely like it's one of those that for me, the first time I read it, I thought it was the dumbest book ever. Especially being in Hawaii, everyone's a millionaire basically if they have a home. So for me, when you read it and it's telling you your home is not an asset and whatnot, I'm just like, this is just a stupid book. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. And I actually probably read it when I was maybe like 20, and if I if I paid attention to the principles of the book at that time or mindset change, I'd be retired easily by now. But I probably didn't read it again until maybe 20 years later or so, 15, 20 years later. And it definitely sticks with you now. It definitely puts things in perspective and kind of definitely makes you understand assets, liabilities a lot better. And that's why I actually purchased both versions of the cash flow board game. So there's the kids version and then there's the adult version. So my son and I have been playing the kids version. He enjoys it. So he actually asked to play it. He wants to play it, and I think he just likes trying to uh, cheat me and not give me all my money because I let him be the bank, and I think he tries to see if I'm paying attention. He's always trying to shortchange me, but he has fun, so I'm glad. So he actually the other day he was like, "Oh yeah, that's an asset, that's a liability." So it is fun. Morning, Jen. Jen's tuning in, so I think she's tuning in from the out of state investor group of the school community. They have their Friday calls. So hopefully some other people might be popping in. And I think Lindsay and Vincent run that call. If anyone hasn't seen, Lindsay has been on the Bigger Pockets rookie episode recently that came out on May 12th. So go check that one out. Super good episode. And she's also been on Zuber's channel recently. Yeah, Joe's signing off. Looks like I'll see you tomorrow, Joe. I think I got two lives with you, one on yours and one on mine. Big Val's here finally. Thanks, Val, for tuning in. Yep, Hyder says my kids play cash flow also. And Jen says she tuned in and just heard me say adult version. Uh, you missed
No
Harrison say. So what
context.
did Harrison say about growing and entertainment? Something about
Oh yeah, yeah. There's another
he
one.
yeah
Another good
yeah
soundbite.
yeah. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. Anything else you guys want to talk about before you
Sweet.
sign off? Anything else you want to
No,
promote? Talk
man.
about? I'm telling you, John, you got
Been
to
a pleasure,
record
dude.
yourself painting. I'm telling you, that will.
I will try to figure out how I can do the casting of what I see in the goggles and the exterior of, what a, you know, absolute idiot I look like, trying to do stuff from the outside.
Send
But,
it.
You just gotta do it, man. I think you'll be worthwhile, and you're trying to build that YouTube channel anyway, so I think it'll be great content, man.
well, on that note, even though I only have 39 subscribers, I think I was actually able to do live with you today. So I
It's
think
legit.
this is going to go on
Oh,
the
cool. Hold
channel.
on, let me put your channel in again, and then I'll put Matt's one in also. But if anyone hasn't that's tuning in, please go subscribe and get let's see, there's John's one, and I don't know, Matt, I haven't seen any Tesla videos from you recently. Are you afraid? Have you changed your emblem on your
Oof,
Tesla?
dude, come on, man. You know me. I put more money in the stock, baby. Ever since Tim Walls, he had that beautiful, beautiful presentation. Thank you.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think Dion put a bunch in there as well.
That's funny because Dion did post. He made a post on Facebook showing the Tesla prices and saying he bought and all that. And someone sent me a private message and like, is this real? Because Dion said he'd never buy stocks and he'd give it away if someone gave him stocks. And I was like, oh no, that's real, man. I said, Dion, they bought when Tesla, people were going all
Hmm,
crazy on Tesla, and he's like, oh, yeah. But someone thought it was a fake post by
fake.
Dion. Yeah.
And dude,
Um,
it's I think as like investor hat, right? You're trying to just basically stack assets and you find undervalued deals. You'd be like, why not? So, but yeah, man, it's been a
Absolutely.
pleasure. Thanks for having us on, as
yeah,
always, Mark.
yeah. One last time, let me just put the link for the ORAT shirt. Frank is picking up sales again. So he took a little break. So if you haven't, go pick up your shirt. Get ready for next year's event. Matt, will you be there next
I
year?
saw a question.
When they got the
I saw a
dates.
question from
Oh, where's
Flavio.
that?
He was asking about regulations in Tahoe.
Huh, I don't.
It was back a
Okay.
little ways, but Tahoe is a Washoe County type of situation, so it doesn't affect the city of Reno. In case you're looking to do any investing here or whatever, Tahoe has different criteria. You have to have a permit to actually do short term rentals up in Tahoe, and you don't currently in Reno. However, I do believe they will require permits here soon. They've been talking about it a lot, so just so you've got an answer for your question there, Flavio. It will be coming, I think, but currently there is not any permitting for Reno.
Sorry, I was messaging someone back. But all right, well, this was a fun one. This is a good one. We probably didn't get to all the questions or the topics in the ALEX video. So if you want, you can always go check it out yourself. I'll put that also in the chat. So if you want to go check out the full video for yourself, come up with your own thoughts, questions, whatnot, but go check it out. It's a good video. Alex has a lot of good things, makes you think. I think that's where Dion gets a lot of his topics from. He goes to Alex, he kind of picks things out, and that's how he forms a lot of his content. But it's a good one. I'll
Yeah,
be
they
back
got a pretty big
tomorrow.
following.
Oh yeah, and they
Yeah,
have
huge.
they have a subscription thing. I don't know what the subscription thing is for,
Mm.
but go check it out. It's a good platform. Thanks for always doing this, you guys. John, seriously. Oh wait, hold on. John, how far is your STR from Fallon?
Fallon is about an hour away.
All right. Yeah, they're talking about books. Yeah, cool. I'll be back tomorrow. Shoot,
What time?
6. I'll be back at noon Eastern tomorrow with
Noon.
Joel and Curtis. Curtis will be
Ooh,
on,
I'm gonna try.
and
I'll try to tune in. I got duty, so I'll try to talk some smack in the comments for you guys.
all right. Thanks, guys. Everyone, have a good weekend. If I
Thank
don't
you.
talk to you, folks. All
All
right,
right,
bye.
y'all. Take care.